I always do this. The first one is always like sloppy, like a rough draft. What up, party people? Today, I figured we are just gonna talk about another one of the villains, Anika Pandit, aka Toxin. It was just one of those names I came up with as a kid. Second generation Indian American, born and raised in Jersey City, New Jersey. This character gets the distinction of being the first villain that I created. Going back to the initial creation of First Brigade, or let me be more specific. Okay, since it's a one and done, I kind of thought in my head, okay, there would be the disaster of the week, or the villain of the week, or the personal issue of the week. Wanting to kick off the first issue, I went with the quote unquote villain of the week. Toxin is another fun character in terms of being an opposite. In the case of who she's the opposite of on the First Brigade, I would probably say Trouble. They're not necessarily that close in age, with Toxin being a college dropout and Trouble being of high school age, but backstories, there's a few similarities in terms of neither of the characters wanting their powers, but getting them through unscrupulous means, so to speak. I just thought for a villain, sometimes the best villains are the tragic heroes. Sometimes bad things happen to unsuspecting people. And in the case of Anika, the clinical trial that she gets involved in, and where she thinks it's just, something simple and it's actually something sinister. With Toxin, I was really thinking that was kind of the way to go, was to really play up this fact that she didn't choose this lifestyle, not initially. She is a character who took this tragedy, and instead of using it as fuel to safeguard that nothing like that happens to anybody else, she turns that anger outward towards the world. It's like, since the world did me wrong, now I'm gonna do the world wrong. That was the place where I started with Toxin in terms of figuring out her character. She's gonna have to live with what she has now, and she's gonna make the world pay because of it. Her powers are a great representation of that inner anger that she has. And so with powers, I want to, Toxin, I want to go with something toxic. So I started thinking about different forms of toxic, whether it was radiation, things of that nature. And it's funny I said radiation first, because that's exactly where I kind of landed on it. With Toxin, it was pretty much powers and look, or an idea for a look. I'll be honest, the look came from something I had seen in an issue of Thunderbolts. Now, I believe Warren Ellis was on Thunderbolts by this point. But Warren Ellis, when he jumped on the book, I don't know if it was him or the artist, but like they redesigned Radioactive Man. Now you can't even see his face, and they kind of put him in this hazmat type costume. Full mask with the, breathing apparatus that came out of it. I just kind of thought that was like a cool little like costume redesign for him. So with coming up with Toxin, Radioactive Man was on my mind. So obviously I didn't take the full, let me take the full hazmat suit, but I liked the breathing apparatus thing. I was like, yeah, that's kind of a cool look or a distinction for a character. So I was like, okay, I threw in this, kind of hazmat type deal, and, a couple other things, because I wasn't necessarily thinking everything with this character's costume had to necessarily fit. So for Toxin, it's gonna sound funny, but it's the socks. It's the socks. It's the tattered little cape thing she's rocking, but it's the socks. I love those those little checkered sock joy she's got on. It's like a little fun little detail within that character's design. That was kind of my starting place with the character of Toxin, going more in depth into who she is, why she wanted to get out of Jersey so bad, the fact that she didn't want to follow her family's rules, and the tragedy that befalls her from breaking away, recklessly breaking away, I should say. Getting involved with what she thought was a very base by the books of clinical trial, which wind up turning her life upside down. So she got to this point because of some things that she may have done wrong in her life. Not to say she was a criminal, but just bad choices. And so, like in life, with every choice, there's some type of consequence. And the consequence for Toxin is that her world will never be the same. Personality-wise, she came from a different place. It wasn't anything I predetermined or pre-designed. It was pretty much me looking at the casting of a character and realizing, okay, this is where the character needs to be and coming from, so you as a reader can either understand her a little bit more. Yeah, it's so the reader can understand her a little bit more, pretty much.